Canadian Premier League award nominees are beginning to be announced. First up was the Golden Glove, the top goalkeeper in the league. Marco Carducci, I think this is his fourth nomination, a year one guy, a great season with the Cavs. Really, we're seeing the top three clubs and their respective goalkeepers get the nods this year. We have long since speculated on this program that it was really a two-horse race between Jassim Kalelat of Forge and Nathan Ingham of Atletico Ottawa. Single season clean sheet records for both of those young men, and for Mr. Kalelat, the most in a single 28-match campaign in history. So let's make the case for each of these three players, and I'd actually like to start with Marco Carducci. Jordan, can you tell me why he deserves or has a chance to win the 2025 Golden Glove?
You know, it's going to be tough because I think going into this, I think people will put him in third place regardless, just because of how great Jas and All-State Nate have been this season. But doing a deep dive on what he has done well, he's second in passes completed. And look, he's a guy that when you're playing out of the back, he's been consistent in finding passes. That's a nice little point. But I think also people, when I've asked about how they felt about him this season, the biggest thing that's come up is that personally, this has been like his best year in terms of shot stopping and the way that he's kind of kept Calgary in the game. The argument that would be made then is this is maybe the weaker Calgary side defensively. But I think Marco Carducci looks the part. He's played every minute of every match. And for me, he's kind of stood on his head in certain moments and made some big saves. However, it's hard to argue for this guy because Jas and Nate, I'm sorry.
Yeah, for the first 2/3 of the season, Jordan, I thought Carducci was having his best season on record. Unfortunately, things defensively have completely gone sideways over the last 6 weeks or so. Because I honestly think up until that point, Carducci was right in the mix. Like I would have really strongly thought about voting for him as goalkeeper of the year, but things have kind of fallen off the wheels over the last few weeks.
If you're a fan of goalkeeper assists, Marco Carducci is always your guy.
He does it well.
Great dude, too. Yeah. Great dude.
Next up on our list is going to be Nathan Ingham. Can you make his case?
Well, he's got the nickname now, All-State Nate, because he's made so many big saves and taken that credit, that award on so many occasions. And his highlight reel looks really good as well, making big saves at big moments, playing behind a very young back line, predominantly with all under 21 players as well. I think he's been standout. Look, Diego Mejia thinks that he should be playing potentially Major League Soccer or elsewhere. He thinks he's that good. And who am I to question Diego Mejia? Because he hasn't got a thing wrong, really. And I trust his evaluation. So he's been really good. I don't think that his numbers quite match that of Kalelat, but I think that the eye test will tell you that he had a really solid campaign and worthy of a nomination like this.
Well, the one stat that he did lead the Canadian Premier League in was save percentage for goalkeepers who played at least 500 minutes this season at 74.1%. But Gareth alludes to it, there was a keeper that led in a lot of categories with clean sheets, 13, a new all-time record in the Canadian Premier League, fewest goals conceded per 90.78, the third lowest in league history. This is Jassim Kalelat. Jordan, those are the surface stats, but you've watched all these games with the rest of us. I wonder if there's something that the eye test can also tell you to support the stats.
Outside the eye test, I think there are just moments that stick throughout the Canadian Premier League. The three gentlemen here, there are others, but we'll just talk about us right now. Every weekend, we are there tuning in and watching these gentlemen play. And there's some times where things flash before my eyes. The save on Kabza, Calvary, Forge, and he just tips his side. I said, I'm going to see this again. This will be on his highlight reel when Jassim Kalelat most likely lifts the silverware for Golden Glove Award. And that doesn't mean that All-State Nate hasn't had a year, but I think it comes down to those margins. Jassim Kalelat probably had those bigger stops and had less mistakes comparative to Nate, but it might just be one or two That's how close it's been, and that's why you can't talk about 1A without talking about 1B. But I think Jas, he has the margin over him. He stood up in big moments, and although his team has been exceptional defensively, he's been an exceptional goalkeeper as well.
He had 2 or 3 of those over the season. Like, how did he save that?
Yeah.
And those moments were very rare because he played behind the best defensive team in the Canadian Premier League. But, whether it's the numbers, the eye test, he very much looks the part. He was great coming on the scene last year and would have been in contention for the award last year if he had played a full season. So he's excellent. If he does go on and win this award by judgment, not only by me, but my colleagues and others as well, then he fully deserves it. He's been excellent this year. So he's probably the headliner of a class of good goalkeepers this year, which is kind of funny to say because more goals were scored in the Canadian Premier League this year than ever before. But I thought there was some really decent goalkeeping performance. But Kalela has to be considered the best of the bunch.
3 thoroughly deserving nominees. Of course, we'll find out the winner the night of the CPL Awards. And at the time of this recording, well, there's one more award that we can go through in terms of who's been nominated and making the case for each, and that is the best under 21 Canadian player. You could argue that this is the most important award category in the CPL Awards in terms of who might be the next export stars on the rise, Canadian stars on the rise. Masunda from Forge, Coimbra from Halifax, Ba from Vancouver, and Abatne and Antinoro representing Atletico Ottawa. I think the producer has this going in alphabetical order, and maybe if not, I'm just making this up because it's Noah Batne who I want to discuss first. And let's go to you. Who wants this one? I believe it is Jordan Wilson.
I'll take this one.
Take it away.
I think when we're going to be at the award show, showered up, smelling good, looking dapper.
Speak for yourself.
And they go, the winner of, well, I hope we smell good and we showered up, but cocoa buttered up. Anyways, regardless, when it goes U21 Player Award I'm standing up. I've said this for a couple months now. I'm just standing up and starting to clap. Then the name will come and I'll keep clapping. All 5 of them could win it. But we got to talk about Noah Batne, and what edges him over everyone else is the fact that he's led that back line as a kid. Barely has facial hair as a kid. He has anchored that back line, given stability, looking to his left, Kozlowski, looking to his right, Kluche or Teodoro Haney Walker. Like, these are peers. And he's led that back line. And yes, they haven't had the most unblemished back line, but they're very close. They've looked very good. They've played attacking football. He's also taken his lumps, mistakes like the first leg in Can Champ, but then coming back the second leg and looking the part. Like, his rise this season, if that's how you judge a U21 player, is how you start with quality, but how you've progressed throughout the season, there's a case for Noah Batne to win this award.
He's going to get his flowers, not just for his performances. His style of play is very good as well. I think we were on this very early last year. Beyond that this player is all the talent in the world. Wouldn't surprise me if he ends up a nominee for Defender of the Year as well. But with that being said, for me, it's very difficult to give Abatne that award because he's playing alongside 2 other under 21 defenders who I thought were excellent. Loic Cloutier and Sergei Kozlowski were both outstanding. And I kind of have a hard time separating them from one another because they did it as a unit together. And I wonder in the minds of the voters whether that will come into play. It certainly does for me. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Abatne because I think he's fantastic. And if he does go on to win this award, it's well-deserved and well-earned. But if you want to talk about snubs on that top 5 list, I mean, Cloutier for long stretches, just the way that he went out and defended with confidence was excellent. And Kozlowski potentially has the highest ceiling of any of them. And we're going to see him on display at the Under-17 World Cup. So that just came into my head when looking at these nominees. It's like, okay, Abatne made the list, but Cloutier and Kozlowski didn't make this list. Like, it's just hard for me to separate the 3.
And it's it's a good class when Garrett's adding 6 and 7 in terms of snubs, and I'm going to add 8
we're sure what this new. We're sure what this new crop of young players coming through would look like. But they really impress me and lead me to believe that the Canadian Premier League future is just that much more bright. The thing is, I say snubs, But I think that all 5 players that did make the list are worthy of being on that list. So
Yeah.
it's less of a snub and more like, who do you keep out? I think there were another couple players that are in that conversation as well. So there was probably 7 or 8 or 9 players that could have easily made this top 5.
Usually when we look at the list wheels, we're like, okay, we know the top 2 and who should win it. But this year, there's a case literally for 10.
Yeah.
And I love that because that's what the Canadian Premier League is about. This U21 award, like I said, 5 nominees. I'm clapping already, no matter what, because all of them deserve it in some way, shape, or form.
Adding up to Mikhail Gerasimenkov as well. I think if we're talking about actual snubs, a guy who made his way up through to the actual senior team, Moldova as well, fantastic, plays multiple positions. I digress. Let's refocus to the players that were in fact nominated. And Gareth, we will remind the audience that these awards are based on regular season performance. So when I ask you about Gabriel Antinoro, we can't talk about the screamer he scored this weekend against Forge, but what it does show is his ability and his potential.
Well, it also speaks to how consistently good he was over the course of the season. Playing in those wide areas under Diego Mejia, it's a very difficult spot because you need to be able to maintain your defensive integrity, but they are vital to helping propel the attack. I know all the credit and the numbers go to Rodriguez and Tabla and Salter, but those wide areas, Antinoro and DeSantos actually lost his spot for a couple games as well, but Antinoro just consistently strong over the year. If you're voting for Antinoro, and I know there will be some Antinoro love, it just won't be based upon the numbers. Like the way that he plays kind of reminds you of like Mo Farsi and players like this, how he really fully stepped into that role and took a massive leap in terms of his career. Even at Debrienne, like you look at Antinoro, what he's doing at his age, it's fantastic. So he's absolutely going to get some votes. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes on to win it.
I rate him. Antinoro knows how he feels because we talk about him every week. And on a star-studded team, and everyone's talking about that front 3. But I think about the progression a player has made throughout the season from first week to week 28. And he kept getting better and better. It's been an exponential rise. So like I said, if he's one of the 5 that win it, I'll be clapping and standing up for him.
All right, we have 3 more. We got to speed through. Jordan Wilson, Tierno Ba of Vancouver FC. He blossomed especially under Martin Nash, getting it done across multiple competitions. But what was it about his CPL performance that gives you pause to think he might win this thing?
Won the most fouls in the Canadian Premier League, and not from doing like tiki-taka, from basically just saying, I don't care who you are, I'm going to run at you and try to embarrass you and make something happen. He's the most electric U21 player that this league has this year, and I would honestly argue as well in terms of how he plays as an attacker ever. He is dangerous, puts his head down, the way that he's built, the way that he just has that confidence. Martin Nash speaks about how he speaks in a locker room and he just has that poise and that big boy energy. Look, it's hard not to vote Tierno Ba based on all of what we said about everyone else. The only caveat people will say about Vancouver finishing last, that has nothing to do with the performance and shift that he put in this season. He was something spectacular.
Yeah, but I also think that you need to be able to separate CPL from Canadian Championship because he was their best player on that run. Look, he was great all season long, but the fact that he's playing for a last place team has to give you reason to pause. I love everything that he brings in his toolbox. I love the personality, the demeanor, the talent on the field. He's got it all. And I think it's very easy to consider voting for him, but it's just tough based upon that last place finish. And I do think that matters.
Wheels Thiago Coimbra put up some impressive numbers despite an injury-riddled season. He was in the Golden Boot race for a time.
Scored 12 goals on the season? It was double digits for sure.
13 after the playoffs, I think. But
after the playoffs, 12 in the regular season, and really the only reliable strike option for Halifax Wanderers. I think he's going to get a lot of votes. It's very difficult in the Canadian Premier League to score double digits. I think he finished second or third in the scoring race in limited time. Like that's the only thing that holds him back here. Is that he was dealing with injuries and absences throughout the season. But if he played a full year, I think that he would have been a runaway winner. With that being said, his resume is good enough to win this award, the most dominant of the players that are up for this award, in my opinion.
We never recognize milestones in any other league and any other time in this league. 12 goals from a U21 player would have been enough to seal it. Plain and simple. I mean, alien Sam Salter goes on and does 19 and 28, and you're like, okay, cool. Well, let's just blow it out. No pens, by the way. But Coimbra, in terms of his goal per ratio per minute on the pitch, sublime. Literally, it's under 90 minutes. Like, it's a goal. He's bagging a goal a game. Like, that is crazy to me. That's a stat that he has, and he was barely healthy throughout the season.
Last but not least, Jordan Wilson, Jose Masunda of Forge, who produced another U21 Canadian nominee that we really weren't talking much about last year.
You know, out of the back line, I think that's one of those players that has Bobby Smirniotis' heart. Like, I asked Bobby about what do you love about him. He said he just approaches everyone, every defender. He doesn't care. And not in a cocky and arrogant way. He's like, I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to run at you. I'm going to try to get the better of you. I'm going to try to curl that upper 90 coming from the left side to the right. And that confidence, that's what Forge needed as well. I think they needed someone, a kid, to come in and be like, I'm so glad to be here, and I'm going to show you every time I train and I play. I said Bob was electric. He's had some electric performances, and he's just a player that is going to continue to grow. And honestly, different qualities, but Kwesi Poku didn't win U21 Player of the year before he won it. And I could see a world where Masunda's a little bit pissed about that. And then next year he says, oh, you guys don't think I'm U21 Player of the Year? No problem. And he starts getting that productivity. And that's what I want to see.
I think that could very well happen. I'm not sure if his resume is what these other players are on this list, but there was a time during Forge's season where they were really struggling to find an attacking spark. And they were dealing with some injuries as well. And Masunda stepped up huge for this team. And that's kind of my feeling about his. Like, this was kind of a sneak peek of what's to come. Of this group, he's the one that could make an even bigger jump ahead of next season. That's kind of the way I'm approaching Masunda.
All right, OneSoccer Direct returns on Friday. We will have more award categories to dissect, all leading up to the CPL Awards, which will be broadcasted live on OneSoccer. Details to follow.